Hi, everybody. I'm Alison Kent with the Home Kitchen, a website hub for chats about food, exclusive online shop, and a space for kitchen design. And we are talking today with my good friend Carlyanne, who I'm trying to spell as I type this. Yay! Pruger from White Table Catering. And we're going to chat today about raising food kids. Who's calling from her minivan out camping, and he's still fabulous, of course.
Oh my gosh, hold on.
How's your hair still perfect when you're camping?
Well, we left the kids to go camping.
Oh, you left the kids to go camping?
So we're here for the day and to pick them up. So I didn't have to camp, which is kind of nice. But
that is a nice break. I'm taking the boys camping after school's out, and already Taylor and I are just thinking about all the food we can cook when we're camping. Like, let's do a clam bake, let's do this, let's do that for all the. It's all about the food every time.
It's so true. The food is so important. No camping friends weekend. We had a sit-down event with White Table, so we were working this weekend. So the kids got to have a little bit of a camping getaway, which was nice.
Yeah. That's nice. And so White Table Catering, which is still largely wedding catering, mostly, or you don't do as many events? It's mostly weddings.
Mostly weddings. We do it all. But yeah, right now in this season, it's definitely wedding focused. So.
And getting back in gear because things are opening up again.
We are, yes. So we are. As of June 15th, we are good to go as long as everyone behaves until then. Yeah, June 15th, we can go ahead with our 50s, just like last summer. So we're hoping that even by the summer, that might even look a little better than 50s. Mm-hmm. So, but for now, yeah, June 15th, things are going to look a lot better.
Yay. Well, we started this conversation when we started talking about traveling with our kids and like introducing them to global food and global experiences and stuff like that. How old are your kids now? You have 3 boys.
Yeah. So 7 and 5 and 1. And Allie, you were my inspiration for traveling with kids and not being afraid to do that. Because Mark and I know we're always big travelers. And then we kind of just always heard like, oh, when you have kids, like, you know, wait until they can really remember the trips before you take them. And like, it's a waste of money to bring them. And we just never saw it that way. And so, I don't know, we felt a little bit crazy at times because usually with our life too, we have to book really last minute vacations. And so we would just like up and take our kids wherever 2 weeks beforehand. So you were a big reason where you're like, no, you got to do it. Doesn't matter how old they are. Yeah, I remember
that. Well, we took Taylor on the first trip to Europe for all the kids and actually for Warren too. And Taylor was only 4 months old. We had to get his passport photo. We're like literally got our hand behind him trying to hold his little head up because he's only, I think he was just born when we got his passport photo taken. But it was because our girls were already, how old were they? They were 10 and 13 already. So for them, it was time to start seeing everything. And the boys basically just got dragged along, but I loved it. And I don't regret taking them along at all. And I think that's one of the big reasons the big boy now is such a foodie. Like he was just experiencing all these things from literally from birth. He's been going to Europe since he was 4 months old. So he's really got a taste for it now. And I think it's you're not always aware of it. And maybe you're really young. Obviously he doesn't remember being 4 months old, but it's still kind of ingrained in him a bit over the different trips and over the subsequent things. So I think it's such good value just for their global awareness too, but also for their taste buds to experience all these different.
I totally agree. I think too, even if they don't remember, which is true, like the first trip we took our kids on that seemed a little bit like adventurous, I guess. We took our kids to New York. Rylan was almost 3 and Cole was a baby. And we booked our trip like 2 weeks beforehand and just left. And people thought we were crazy. They're like, New York, like out of all places. But Mark and I, like, we travel for inspiration, and we also travel when we need a break. And we're just mentally done, and we go as an escape and come back so fueled with so much, like, we thrive on new ideas. And so we go to places. We spent a lot of time in LA too, but we went to New York and we ate, and we just were like, it's such an inspiring city. I love that city. I've been there multiple times, but only this one time with kids, but I would do it again. And people were like, you're bringing your kids there. Like, what are you thinking? And it's true. Like, New York is not built for families. Like, we had our massive double city select stroller.
Europe's not built for big strollers either. Most
no.
of these cities are not built for big strollers.
We were at train stations, subway stations, and we're like carrying this thing up the stairs because there's no elevators for strollers. But it was the best. And yes, Cole doesn't remember the specifics of that particular trip, but he knows that he was a part of it. And it's built so many of our family memories, like layers upon layers, and what we talk about and what Mark and I talk about. And the kids feel included and a part of it because they were there. They don't necessarily remember at 4 months old or however old Cole was, but they do feel a part of those memories. And I think that's such a cool thing to build that.
I think that's so true, because even for Taylor, even when he's only 4 months old, like, he still can see the pictures that he was there and the girls were pushing him up to the area across from the Eiffel Tower and all this stuff. And I think probably for your older one, even at 3, he was probably already trying different food and wasn't even aware that he was doing something culturally significant, but was probably still doing it. At 3, he's eating whatever you guys are probably eating, right?
Exactly. And you learn so many skills as a kid doing that. You learn to be flexible. You learn to, try different things, to be in new environments, how to behave in multiple.
You hope.
I think it's so important for kids to learn those skills, because when you're at home and you're doing the same routine, and yes, I do believe routine and structure is important, and I know kids need it, but sometimes I think breaking them out of that structure is just as important, because they learn a whole new set of skills. And I do think it matures them in a different way. And honestly, like,
in a cool way.
And my kids are not really picky eaters. And I think it's part of it.
I was going to ask if they eat everything when you travel. Do the kids, are they willing to try everything? One of mine is and one isn't. So
yeah, no, my kids, they're good about trying it. We make them try it. And I would say, like, most of the time they eat it. I would say they're getting actually a little pickier as they get older. So I need to break.
They're getting probably more refined.
That is true. Like, they're like,
now there's like, Mom, there's not truffles on this. I'm not eating it.
Like, where's the Parmesan grater? Like, we have cheese in the Parmesan grater. But yeah, it's I definitely feel like that is something that the two of them have become, like, flexible in their eating and in their sleeping, and they can sleep anywhere. So things
also handy.
Very handy, yes.
We did a trip just before, because I homeschooled up until Taylor was the end of grade 7. So then when they were about to go into grade 8 high school and school, we drove across the French Riviera from Barcelona all the way across the French Riviera into Italy. And Taylor says that was his favorite, like, trip ever that we've done, because everywhere we went, we were trying that food of, like, that town, even not even that country, but like that town had cassoulet, and then the next town had Barcelona had the Spanish appetizers. Then we go to the beach and try different food. And he was all over it. What, grade 8? You're 13? So he's about 13 then. But Braden was still 10, and the only thing he would eat was steak. And there's no kids menus in France. It's like 20 € steaks every single time we sat down to eat. And I'm begging him to try something different. I'm like, just please try something different. If I'm going to pay 20 €, like, I want you to try some new food at least. Nope. He's still such a fussy kid, but at least he has it in his head. And if he ever goes back, it's not unfamiliar So he could go back and just be like, oh, Castle, I have seen that. I've been beside them eating it. Maybe I'll order it this time. Now I'm ready.
And
So
I
I
think
still hope.
I totally agree. And I think that's the thing. That's the important part about teaching your kids to be foodies. Like, is even if they don't like everything, like that's okay. And you might not like something now, but it doesn't mean you're not going to like it later. So it's important to retry things. But I think even if you don't like something and you've tried it a couple times or over years and you've tried it, what is another huge part about being a foodie is the knowledge behind food and appreciating where the food came from and appreciating the culture that it came from. And even if it's not your favorite thing, I mean, I don't love every single thing I've ever tried. And there's definitely food I've tried that's like out of my comfort zone, but you try it because you're in that culture, or you're traveling to that country. But knowing where that food it comes from, that it's just as important as necessarily like you might not like it, but being trying it and then knowing like what's behind it, I think that's just as important. And if they get that,
Oh, it's huge.
yeah.
We did a trip. I don't remember. I'm not going to remember how old the boys were. I think they were like 5 and 8. And we all went to Greece, all 4 kids. The girls were older. And we took a cooking class in Crete. And Crete's like slightly bigger, I think, than Vancouver Island. And it's super agricultural. So we did a cooking class in an old olive mill. But all the oreganos and thyme and everything was just growing wild in their, it wasn't even a yard or a garden. It was just basically wild bushes, and they had all these herbs that here were like, oh goodness, we have oregano. There it's just weeds. They were pulling it, we were smelling it, and we're seeing like the earth that it grows in and how that's so ingrained and associated with Greek food, and we're cooking all the dishes with it. And what made that, I think that was the first time on a big family vacation that we all took a cooking class, and that was our dinner that day. And we've done it ever since. It was just the best thing. It's the best kind of, I was talking to a cooking school in Paris last week about this. Like, it's such a good souvenir because now you have the food specifically. You got the food skills, you've got the taste buds, you've got the history, you've got the story, and you're taking that home, and then you'll cook it again. We still cook the guacamoles that we learned in Mexico that had different ingredients that we would never have thought to use here. And we still carry that, and we'll make it forever. And every time we do, we're taking ourselves back to that family time, to that vacation, to the time spent together. It's just so valuable. We're broke, but it's super valuable.
But money well spent. We really believe that. We really
money well spent.
priority in our finances too. And no, like to that, we took our kids to Italy 2 years ago. So the summer before the COVID summer. And honestly, it was the best time. We had an exchange student that lived with Mark and I when we first were married. We bought our first house, and he lived with us, and I was like so young, and I had this teenager like son that I was like taking care of, and I had Rylan, and who was my oldest. He was, well, not even 1 at the time. He was little. But we got so close with this guy. He was so amazing. His family was so amazing. And they had said, you know what, one day you'll have to come visit us. They lived in Bologna, which I know and they had their own apartment, like vacation apartment in Lerici, which is on the coast of northern. So right before like the Cinque Terre, like that whole area. Yeah. So anyways, we just decided, again, 2 weeks beforehand, we booked our tickets. We're like, we're just going to go. We had 2 events cancel, or something happened, or our team could handle it. I can't remember what happened. And Mark and I were like, we have a window. Like, let's just do it. So we pulled the kids from school, or Rylan from kindergarten, made sure we were back for his graduation day. He was like the next day. But we pulled him, and we just went, and we went to London first and lived there like with them for a couple days. Then we went and lived in Italy, and we lived in this little town. It's actually the town beside Lerici, and everybody there is local. Like, it's not down. And there's like one shop for the pasta, one shop for the focaccia, one shop for this, and that's how they live. Like, you go here for your noodles, here for your sauce, like, or your pesto, just your pesto even. Here for your focaccia. And so he taught us this because he lived with us there for one day and then he had to go back to Bologna for some schooling. So we lived there in the apartment. And honestly, it was so amazing. And our kids learned so much. And like the locals were teaching Mark how they make their pasta. And then we were like,
and Italians love kids too. Like,
oh,
they love kids.
yeah, our kids were spoiled in that little town. Like they were giving them candy like all the time when we walked by. Like it was such an incredible experience.
And when it's only that one place, you're getting to know that one guy really well and saying, well, we tried that yesterday. Like, we're back today. What do you have? And it's such a more of a close kind of knit experience.
Actually living in a town, like we would go play like for little day trips, but because we were living in that town specifically, like there's something so cool about just like being in the culture, like living there. Like there was no places to like sightsee in that town. It was gorgeous, but it wasn't like you go to this museum here or this, like we would just, and you were just walking through, like you had to take, we were living like on the hill and then this town was on the beach. And so we would walk down like through the hill and you're passing all these farms, like these people's properties where they're like growing so many different vegetables and different things that are local to that one town. And it was so inspiring. We ended up driving to, we were booking as we went on that trip. So we decided, okay, well, obviously we're going to go to Tuscany because Mark and I had been before.
How does a foodie not go to Tuscany?
We're so close. So we're like, of course, we gotta go. So we went for a couple nights into Tuscany and stayed, same thing, like a Airbnb, like bed and breakfast type thing. And same, just as you were saying, like just huge bushes of like rosemary growing. Like my kids, my friends always make fun of me because we'll be like, I don't know, somewhere like going bike riding or something with a bunch of us, and my kids will stop if they see like lavender or rosemary and they'll rub their fingers together and like smell, and my friends are like how do your kids even know how to do that or what that is? I'm like, I think they've just watched, like they've watched Mark do it. And I mean, we did do it then in Italy but they already had known at that point to do that. But it's those kinds of things, like just like you know, like what's growing and what herbs, and it's such a cool thing. So
well, that's the other thing that's cool about traveling with your kids, because you don't actually know what they're picking up. They're picking up like details you probably aren't even seeing, and they're just like so excited about this, that, or the other. I took for our last night on that road trip, we were in Paris for a little bit, and Warren and Braden were super tired, so they just went off. They tried to find their way back to the hotel, the Airbnb. And Taylor's like, no, I want to go have one last escargot and see the Eiffel Tower. So him and I went, and we got there. I was like, oh, Taylor, like, it's cool, but sometimes the Eiffel Tower just kind of glitters. I didn't even know that it was timed on a clock, and literally 1 minute later, it started glittering up. And then we just went across the street in the Trocadero. We sat and had our last batch of escargot together. And he's like, that was just the best. That's my favorite food memory of all time. And it wasn't even that it was amazing food or anything, but it's just, he's collecting all the information, right? It's the end of a big road trip. We're having our last batch of snails. It was just me and him. The Eiffel Tower glittered for us. Like, it was just that whole combination of things. And he even said it wasn't that the snails were amazing. We're in some tourist joint that who knows, right? They were okay. But it was just that whole experience that he just was, for him, magical. So when we're hoping to go back this fall, he's like, I just want to go to the Eiffel Tower and I want to have escargot. And that's how I want to end our next trip again, and make sure that that's like our thing.
And you know what? That's so much of food culture. Like, it's not just about the food. However, having like the good quality like food is so important, and knowing the story behind it. But it's also just about the full experience, where you are, like where you're eating it, and those memories that you connect with the food that you're eating. And I mean, even in our company, like that's how we run our company. We tell our team all the time, it's, yes, the food has to be good, it has to be perfect, but it isn't just about the food. It's about the full experience. How are they eating this food? How is it presented? What kind of service are they getting? How is the food displayed? Like all those things. Where are they eating it? Like what location are we at? So how the food that
I've seen some of your new locations
that we're serving, or how we're just. Yeah.
I think you had a new
Super-
location happening. It looked. Oh, you're cutting in and out a little bit. Probably because you're at a campsite. Are you there?
I'm good. Yeah. Can you
Okay.
hear me?
Your voice just kind of was going in and out a little bit. Yeah, I saw one of your new locations. It looks amazing. And I still have amazing memories of cooking for my 40th birthday. We made it be Paris outside in the backyard for one whole night. And
I
again,
love it.
the food was amazing, but it was also just the whole night just made it, right? It's the
Yeah.
experience, it's everything. And I think these kids, I don't know if they know how lucky they are to
Oh,
get to be exposed to all of this.
it's so true. That's why you can try really good Italian food here. I mean, we are so spoiled to live in Vancouver.
Yeah.
We have, especially traveling, you do see this. Like, we are so spoiled here because there is a lot of bad food out there. But, or just a lot of places with no variety of good food.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think because we live in Vancouver, we are really spoiled. So sometimes it is hard to find good food. However, when you're traveling, like, that's the thing that's so special is that you're eating that food not just because it's good Italian food like you did at home, but you're eating that good Italian food and you're eating it there, which is
where it grew. Like a tomato here just doesn't taste anything like a tomato sauce over there. They just don't even, they're not even from the same world. Or last time we were in Italy, we did an olive oil tasting.
yeah.
So I'm hoping to do more stuff like that where like this is where this comes from. So let's dive into it a little bit. Like the boys are bigger now. They can handle this kind of new information, right? And we can be like, well, now we're Taylor and I are hoping to spend a week in Spain. So like let's really dive into the prosciuttos and the meats and the stuff and how is it cured and why is it so special here, and give ourselves kind of that next layer of foodie information. Of course, he's the foodie kid now too anyways, but
And I think like while we're in COVID times and we're stuck here and we can't travel, which kills those who will love to travel. I know it's like killing our souls right now, but there are things that we can do here now that will give that same experience. And Mark and I were even talking about it today on our way up to the campsite, and we were like, I'm like, I just want to do stuff this summer, like even if it's just for the day, that makes us feel like we're traveling. And like, let's rent a boat and like take the kids crabbing and then eat the crab and like show them like where it came from. Like, let's go fishing. And like, this is like me talking, like I'm not usually let's just do it, because those are the memories that, I mean, we live on the West Coast. Like, we actually have some really amazing food experiences that we can have here. And so I think that's what's important too in raising food kids, is even teaching them or giving them those experiences, and they don't have to be expensive, like at home, and teaching them what we have here and where it comes from. Like, we're so blessed where we live. And I think like we take our kids to even the Granville Island market all the time and let them pick things to try. And then Mark's always getting his seafood, and like we're like teaching the kids all about it, and the guys are like at the seafood counter are so into it, so they're always like showing them. And like that kind of thing is so important. Then you bring it home and you eat it and you learn about it like that. You can do that in your own backyard. You don't have to go away all the time to do things
literally in our backyard, because Taylor just finished working there, and so now he was bringing home weird and odd fish almost every single day from Seafood City there, and he just finished that job up, but like he's already gonna miss it. I think he was really sad. Just other things have come up, so he wasn't able to keep working there, but loved it. Like he was always like, here's a new weird and wonderful fish from Japan that I've never seen before, I'm gonna bring one home. And every other day he'd be bringing some strange food thing home. But that getting out is such a nice extension. Like at the beginning of COVID, I think I counted that in the first 3 months of COVID, we ate in some fashion from 20 different countries at least. Like I was losing count. So whether we were cooking it or whether we were getting takeout or whatever, I think there was a brief dine-in kind of bit there too. There was at least 20 countries that we ate in together as a family while we were sitting here in almost absolute quarantine. But then going out, I think in a week or two, Taylor and I are supposed to be going to Galiano with a foraging person, and we're just gonna like hunt for food in the forest, and he's so excited about it. But that's something you can do locally.
Yeah.
He loves hanging out down at the piers and crabbing. He'll spend the whole day down there just catching whatever he can.
Love it. We have friends that are super into that too, and I think that's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, just teaching them to be interested in different things that they see and willing to try. I think that's the main thing. I mean, Mark's like way more adventurous than I am. I'm getting like definitely better. I think I'm not a
You're suggesting fishing. You're getting there.
but I didn't grow up like that. Like I didn't grow up with being, my mom was a really good cook, but I didn't ever have to be like adventurous with food because like we didn't really do that. Like we didn't go out or we didn't go to markets and like try different things, where Mark will just be with the kids. Oh yeah, you want to try that type of cheese? Like let's try that type of cheese. Like, and then he'll like order this meat. And like same with, we were in when we were in Tuscany, we'd go to a bunch of different hill towns, and that one hill town, it was these types of salami that they made like there, and like he like trying it, and like they would get a bag and the kids would and him would be eating different salamis. I got in there too, but after like your third town of salami, you're a little bit. I was, but yeah, it was like those things, like just being willing to like let's try it, like, and it doesn't have to be expensive. Like it can be just little tasters, like here and there. That's what's so fun about trying different food.
And trying it where it is, because you get home and you're like, well, let's try the Italian salami from down on Commercial Drive. It's good and it's Italianish, but it's nowhere near the same.
Sometimes the cool thing is when you've done this, then you go somewhere and you see a product and you're like, oh my goodness, that's from this town, or that's this type of salami. Like, remember when we tried that, or we did that, or that.
And the memories, and that's your food souvenir kind of coming back. And I always, when we travel, I take a small rolly suitcase inside of my big suitcase so that when I come back, I have it full of food, like just all, like you said, anything cured or dried or preserved, you can bring back. And so now this time in our, hopefully in our fall trip, Taylor and I are each going to have one, because he's going to have his own, like his own rolly suitcase full of all the food he wants to bring back. And then there's all the food I'm going to want to bring back. And just from like this. What's that?
I think that'll be Cole in our family. He's our little foodie.
You'll have a lot of wheelies.
Yeah. Oh,
3 kids full of wheelies in yours. Well, it's amazing experiences, and like, so glad you guys did it, because I always kind of thought you're going to homeschool and just go and travel and do the things, but we pulled our kids out of school until grade 10.
Yeah, I think we will.
Grade 11 and 12, not so much, although Taylor's probably going to miss a month of grade 12 this year in the fall, but otherwise we haven't typically pulled them out those years. But up until then, let's travel. Let's travel off season. Let's travel when it's slow, when we don't have to rush, when we can sit in the cafes and actually get a seat. And
we're the same way. I mean, we have to with the nature of our work anyways. We can't leave in high season here. We do try to take advantage of spring break, but it's expensive. So spring break's kind of like, it depends. Like a lot of the time that's when we end up going to California anyways, because we do go there every year for work. But for traveling abroad, like we just have been pulling our kids, and I know it's like I used to be a teacher, so I get it. It's an inconvenience, but I just think it's so invaluable. And the things that they learn doing that, like you cannot learn that through school. And at the end of the day, like us as a family, like we only have 18 years with them, and the more memories that we can build together and experiences that bond us as a family and that connect us with all these memories and that help mature them and grow them in different ways, especially like that practical, like hands-on experience. Like to me, like you can't learn that in a classroom. And I don't know. I just think it's so important. So I don't know. I hope all their teachers don't hate me, but we'll continue.
Ours were like, oh, you can't pull them because we're going to learn about Roman times or something. I'm like, we are going to Rome.
Yeah.
It's okay. They're going to touch the Colosseum now. Like, we'll be back in a few weeks. See you later.
I have friends who like, well, I would nanny for them when I was in high school and then a little bit through university, and they were the same. Like, they gave their kids like so many amazing experiences, and I think like they would learn about Canadian government. Like, they went like to the parliament. Like,
Yeah.
how amazing is that to like have those opportunities? And I mean, we're not made of money. Like, we can't do that every single year, every unit, obviously. But I think when you can, or when there's opportunities, when you are somewhere and there's teachable moments or experiences that you can do, I think those are the things that they leave such an impression on. That, yeah, it's important to do it if you can, wherever you end up. So
yeah, like you said, even locally, even just going to Victoria or going LA, it doesn't have to be that expensive, right? And there's already some cool food stuff and happening in LA, and new and up and coming restaurants that don't have to break the bank. Go for lunch instead of dinner if you're going with your kids, and then have a quiet dinner somewhere simple or whatever. Like, there's lots of different ways to do it. We drive down, well, pre-COVID, we drove down to California every single year, and we would drive all the way to San Francisco, and then we'd stop for a day, and then we'd start like just beach hopping. And there was a beach that always has this, I think it's Pismo Beach, and they have this shop just full of crickets, and like chocolate covered crickets and regular crickets. And because we go every year, Taylor would see it and go, oh, I don't know, should I try it? And then we go to the next year, he's like, I think I want to try it, but I'm not sure. And then we go to the next year, he's like, yeah, I'm getting the bag of crickets.
Sounds like Mark's the same. Totally. And those are such like amazing memories. Like, oh, I love that. And here in BC, like, oh my goodness, like you can go all throughout our province and try different food. I mean, Mark and I actually, we spent the time last summer for our anniversary in the Okanagan, and we didn't have the kids with us, but it was, I had not been there in so long, like since I was a teenager. Yeah. And I was like, we live in the most amazing province. There is so much variety here of what we can eat and what we can do and what wine we can have. And like, it was just, oh, such an amazing time. And I just really made me fall in love with where we live and realize, you know what, I don't have to go far to like have that like travel, like bug experience. Like, we can do that here at home too. And I just want to put it out there. We are not food snobs. Like, we definitely go to Chick-fil-A in LA.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we can't get out of Chipotle. When we drive down to California, we're in Chipotle every couple days for sure. But it's intermixed with the special moments. And maybe we get to LA and maybe there's like one really nice restaurant, but that's our one like treat. And then we're probably back at Chipotle at some point in time. Like, no, you mix it in and you do what you can, and you make, you know, when we were traveling France, it was like we knew we wanted that bouillabaisse in the town that makes bouillabaisse, and we knew that that meal was going to be hugely expensive. So we just made sure the few days around it, we were eating quite simple, and yeah, a baguette sandwich is still as delicious as anything here, so it's fine. It's, yeah, you're just kind of balancing out the major and the
100%. And that's the thing, like there are tips and tricks like to traveling, and there's tips and tricks to traveling with kids. Like, honestly, sometimes Mark and I, we will, a lot of the time we do this, we're like, okay, let's get the kids a chicken sandwich or like whatever from Chick-fil-A, and then we'll go to the restaurant and they're full and they've eaten. And we kind of have like, sometimes we'll bring tablets. We're like, still, our kids we're still younger too, so they like couldn't even go on the tablet for very long. And we usually bring like coloring and that kind of stuff. And then the second half, I let them like watch something, whether it's on our phone or on a tablet or whatever. I want them to still learn to like be patient and sit at a table. So, anyways, but then Mark and I just order, and we enjoy our dinner. And like, there are things you can do, especially when your kids are young, like that it doesn't have to be like you're forcing your kids to, you're paying whatever $18 for like a bowl of pasta that honestly they would have been probably just as happy eating something different. So I think that it's all about balance, just like in everything else. Like, yes, the experiences are important, but it can, like what you said, like just kind of like in between, and
Yeah.
you can do it. Sure.
It's manageable. It's not impossible. There are days where we're like, man, why did we bring our kids? We're just like, the boys are fighting. You're like, no, I'm going to kill you all. But for the most part, 90% of the time, I'm so, so, so glad that we've just trucked them around the world whenever, like you said, whenever we have $20 we can put together and an opportunity, we
Yes.
just go. And that's, my husband, who's an accountant, talks about what we're going to leave for our kids. And he's always talking about a money, and I'm always talking about an experience.
Me too.
And it's like, yes, you can leave them this money, but we could use that money also to leave them a memory that they'll have forever. And it's just a balance of all those things, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're still going to want some money.
Yeah, totally. Especially where we live.
Yeah.
To was I gonna say, oh, that too, like Mark and I still travel on our own apart from our kids too, because it's true, like it is different.
It's important.
And there is something to it. However, I've never regretted it when we've gone together with them. But you just have to have different expectations. You just have to know that when you're traveling with your kids, sometimes your days need breaks and it looks different. We're like, Mark and I have a lot of energy, like we can go all day. But when you have kids, like sometimes that means, like in New York, we would just end up in Chelsea, like at a playground. And we're at this playground playing with all these local kids. And I just remember looking around thinking, oh, like, I was not expecting to do this today. I didn't have playground written in our like time. But like, this is so cool. Like my kids are playing. We're in the middle of New York. Like we're like, how cool is this? Like we're just living here right now.
You just
and like
feel like a New Yorker in those moments. You're like, you are a New Yorker.
Yeah, and we have like when we go to LA, we actually stay with our friends in Larchmont there in West Hollywood, and they have like chickens and like everything. They live like literally right in Beverly Hills, and they have chickens and like awesome. I love it. We stay at the guest house, and my kids love that. There's something to also be said about sometimes doing things that are traditions, like going back to the same places, and those things are also really important as a family, whether that's going to like the same campsite every year, or like your same spot on Cultus Lake, or going to California and staying with your friends there, like whatever it is. Those are also, I think, really amazing travel experiences for your kids. We're creating relationships abroad, like with people in different areas that they see on those trips and have those memories and experiences with, that are really important. And when we're in Larchmont, we have the same playground, the neighborhood playground that we go play at. And I'm starting to recognize families there. And like, I love that. I think that's so cool. So,
because you're creating a global community for your kids. You're like, if you need to go back to wherever, you're going to have already at least a familiarity. You'll have at least one place where you can start making a new friend. And there you go. I could dump Taylor in the middle of anywhere with a metro system, and he could now figure it out.
That'll be
and
right.
He could make his way around, and like he wants to just start going. I asked him first, what's your favorite food memory family trip kind of thing, and he said, well, Vietnam. And I said, well, we haven't gone yet. But he's already like anticipating the next adventure and the next, and I want to eat that street food, and I want to go to that like place and that climate and that culture. And he's already anticipating the next few years of trips that we've kind of talked about and batted around, always centered around what food can we eat there.
Mark and I went to Thailand when we first got married, and I had never been anywhere in Asia. Like I had actually traveled, like I don't even think I'd really traveled outside of North America until I got married. And even though my parents were avid travelers, they would go, but we would kind of travel more like the States and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I got to travel a lot, which was amazing. But we went to Thailand, and I remember we were both like, we're going to bring our kids here one day. And like, we want to. And some places it's like a little scary. Like you're like, oh, I hope like, oh, it's okay. Like we were like crazy when we went there. Like, we had not a care in the world. But I think those, like taking kids out of their comfort zones is really important. And it is, I don't know, really bonding too. So yeah, we want to go like Asia for sure, like to some really fun
Yeah.
places for sure with our kids too. So yeah, we'll have to talk about your future plans.
Oh, yes. Well, he's been working at a Thai restaurant for the last,
Oh,
that was his first job, was a Thai restaurant. And he's still there, loves it there. And they are a family from Bangkok. And
oh,
they know the cooking school there.
oh,
So
what?
then by extension, they said, Taylor, when you go for your graduation, we'll connect you with the cooking school. And there you go. So it's making those like layers and layers of connections that when we go to Thailand, hopefully, with Vietnam, we're going to hopefully go to both, that he's already layering the food connections he has here with the trips. And it'll be just a whole nother trip than if we'd gone, but otherwise, right? So,
Skills, how to cook all different types of food, like that is invaluable. Like to be able to cook from Thai food to Italian food to whatever it is, like such different flavors, knowing that is, and like what creates those flavors. Oh, that's so amazing. So yeah, Thai food's like my
I
favorite.
just hope he cooks more for me.
Taylor, got it. Yeah, that's
well, it's nice as they get bigger. Like we did travel with them when they were very small, and I think that was just ground laying for everything that was going to come. So now when we take a cooking class, we'll hopefully this fall, Taylor and I specifically are going to stay an extra 2 weeks in Europe, and him and I are going to go to as many cooking schools, or I'm going to throw him into restaurants in the south of France if I can, and just get all the experience we can for the last 2 weeks, just him and I. But now he's at that age, right? He's 17, but I mean, it seriously all started when he was 4 months old, and we just started going, and little by little by little, it just kind of keeps going. And now he's ready to like work and cook and go. And so
I love it. I know Mark and I were saying, we're like, Hudson's going to be 2 and he hasn't even been on an airplane. Like, he even used seat or free.
we've totally failed his parents. Haven't been to Europe with our child yet. Yeah, the COVID's been weird. I'm hoping by September. I mean, we were supposed to be leaving next week for France, but obviously we're not leaving next week for France. So it's postponed for now for September. We shall see what happens. Fingers, toes, everything crossed. Do you have what's the next place you want to take your kids? We're so far over time, but I don't even care. What's the next place you want to take your kids?
Well, we have a couple trips that we're going on in between, that are just fun trips. Like we're going to Hawaii, I really hope still in the fall. And then, which we postponed like 3 times. So we're going back to Maui. That's like a comfort zone place for us. My kids know that well. And then I really want to take them to Disneyland, because Disneyland is like,
it's still the happiest place.
It really is. And while they're this age, it is so magical. And that's one place we have taken our kids, like, I don't know, it's kind of bad, like almost yearly since Rylan was 18 months. Like they have been there so many times, but honestly, every single time we go is like the best time because they're at a new age. So anyway,
our 20-year-olds still like to go. They're 20 and they're like, when can we go to Disneyland next?
Even Mark was not like, he had been there as a kid and he liked it, but I was like, no, like, you don't understand. Like, when you take your kid, like, it's going to be the best. And now he's like, we haven't been to Disneyland in a while. Like, he's like into it too. So we're going there. But I think Rylan really, really, really wants to go to Paris. He is so fascinated with Paris. Mark and I did the south of France 3 years ago, I think. And it was, or more than that, I guess, like the year before we did Italy with the kids. And honestly, it was the best trip in the whole world. It was so amazing. And we talk about it all the time. And we did do Paris, like on the way there and the way back. Had been to Paris longer before, but we talk about that trip, even our Paris time, because we didn't do any sightseeing. We just lived like the whole trip.
Right.
And we just ate. And
that whole drive, the entire south of France, if you drive even the slow coast road, it's only 12 hours or something. It's so short. You can piddle, you can take your time, you can like, it's good for kids. That's a good one.
It is a good one. And you can go to, I mean, we even in one day, we were in France, like in the South France. And And then we went to Monaco that day too. And then we were like, we really feel like pasta. Well, Italy's right there. Let's go to Italy. So we like crossed the border, and in one day we were in 3 countries. We ate 3 meals like in 3 different countries. So I love,
because it is that close together. It's like so condensed.
yeah, that was fun. So Ryland's been really asking to do that. And I mean, Mark and I love Paris and we love France. And so I think that would be a really fun one to take them.
Yeah.
And I think it's really doable at their age
Yes.
level too. So maybe.
And there's a Disneyland Paris.
There is a Disneyland Paris. But that's true.
We've been.
Land person though. Like I haven't even been to Disney World, and I mean, I guess I want to go and try it one day, but I just feel like there's something about Disneyland that for me is just like, it's like the original. Like, yeah. So anyway, I think Paris probably is where we'll want to take them. I just think, it's such a magical city. So
there's so much to see. Like even just walking them through museum. I had the kids when the girls were younger, and I made them all keep little sketch pads with them. So every time we'd sit in a cafe or sit like in the Louvre or wherever, they would just do like quick little sketches of whatever they saw. And that was like their memory.
And you know what? I do that with my kids too. I just buy those like cheap, like little half-page journals with the top right now while they're little. And that's what I have them do every day for the most part. Like obviously there's days that we don't get to it, but I have them write just like even a couple sentences of what we did and draw like a little picture. And those journals to me are my favorite thing of that whole year. That's in their little year. I have like a little folder system for their year, and I put it in there, and I look back and I look at them, and like I love seeing the trip from their perspective of like what they remembered from that day. So I love that. I think that's a good reminder to just get them to keep doing that. Like I was doing it for their teacher too at the time.
Oh yeah.
And then I kind of just continued it because I thought, well, how cool is this to have like as a memory?
We still have all of ours. The kids always, I made them do it, and they would have little scissors and a little tape. And so their like metro ticket from the day, or their little like Louvre ticket or whatever be taped in, their little sketches, like whatever. And every trip I make them do it. I mean, they're getting bigger now. We didn't do it last time we were in Mexico, but yeah, it's such a good keepsake, and I keep all those books. So fun.
I love that. Yeah, I know.
Well, we could talk forever, I feel.
have in the lobby, the Pacific Rim.
You're still like in your car at the campsite there.
Whatever.
Whatever. And I'm gonna try and get together with Mark sometime, maybe in the fall, to learn about plating.
Oh yeah.
Because I get that question when I'm hanging out on Clubhouse and stuff. I get the question here and there about like, what do you suggest for plating? I just want, like, I'm simple, but I want it to look pretty. And so some plating tips would be so cool to do. And I'm glad you guys, White Table Catering back. Go 50 people next month. 50 people now?
50 people starting like, this weekend, basically.
This weekend. Ah, yay.
Yeah. We're only up from here, I hope. So
only up from here. Yes. Oh my goodness.
Big events and traveling.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Thanks for chatting with me.
It's so good to see you, even on this.
I know, even though we're little, we're tiny. See you in person soon.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.